Hello and welcome to the CinemATL podcast. The CinemATL podcast is a weekly podcast that examines the world of entertainment through the lens of local Atlanta filmmakers. That would be us, your hosts. I'm Michael D. Friedman, and that is
Martin Kelly.
And this week it is our 100th episode. Hard to believe.
Yes.
But we started this as a monthly podcast way back in November of 2015. We experimented with a video podcast for a while, and then we kind of took all of 2019 off. But then we returned last year in February in our new weekly audio-only format, and we've been going nonstop ever since. So here we are at episode number 100. So round of applause for us, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you applauding at home? If you're listening to this while you're driving, don't applaud.
Yes, don't do that.
Anyway, well, for this week, we decided to do something a little different. And to celebrate, we are debuting the CinemATL 100, which is our 100 favorite movies of all time. And we're doing it in this very episode. But first, Martin, before we get into that, tell our listeners how they can help the podcast out.
Well, you can help it out like you've been helping. We appreciate all the listening that you've done, all the rating that people have done on the formats that they choose to listen to us, all the comments and all the interaction, and we want more of it. So please keep doing that. You can do it anywhere you listen to podcasts. So that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Amazon, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and even on the YouTube channel. But definitely keep doing that and keep sharing us and subscribing and getting the word out. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we also want to hear from you. You can always tweet us at CinemATL or at my personal account, which is at Badger33.
Or you can hit me up at Marte_Real1.
And don't forget our Instagram account, which is at CinemATL Podcast, where we do a whole bunch of other cool stuff besides talk about the podcast. We do Movie Quote Mondays, we do Freeze Frame Fridays, and we do a bunch of other cool stuff in between. So check that out.
Definitely. And, anybody who wants to listen to it on the old website format, you can check us out at CinemaATL.com.
Ye old CinemaATL. All right. Well, I know you've been waiting with bated breath, so let's just get into the CinemATL 100.
Yes, and so just a quick explanation of the CinemATL 100, in case you can't guess what it is. It's our choice. These are just our favorite movies, regardless of the quality. These are our favorites, just like our top 3. These are just the films that we like to watch over and over or have had a huge impact on our lives. And this is not meant to be objective. This is not an academic exercise. This is just our list of favorites.
Yeah, and we compiled the list by each of us choosing our 100 favorite movies and then ranking them, and then through a convoluted point system that would take way too long to explain and probably involve string theory or advanced physics. I merged the list together to come up with this with a semi-final list, but afterwards we continued the debate on certain titles and we adjusted them from there. So now we have a final list and we can present to you the CinemATL 100.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to go through the list, and instead of rattling off 100 titles, we're going to go take them by section. So the first 10, and then the next 10, and so on and so on. And we'll talk a little bit about each of the batches and discuss some of the stuff that we thought might deserve a little extra attention. So. We'll also note that, a lot of these were just on one of our lists or not the others. Although if my list or Martin's list probably were 200, they probably would have been. But
could have been. Yeah, could have been. We still would have had some individual titles, but there would be a lot more overlap if it's 200.
And there's a couple on Martin's list I saw. I was like, I should put that on my list, but I didn't see knocking something else off. So, and vice versa, I'm sure. Anyway, we'll note the ones that were on both of our lists, and we'll just go through them. All right. Yep. So
let's go.
Let's kick it off from 100 to 91. We have number 100. We have Scream, which was on both of our lists. 99 was Interview with the Vampire. 98 was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. 97 was Wayne's World. '96, Toy Story, which was on both the lists. 95 was Palm Springs. 94 was The Fifth Element. 93 was School of Rock. 92, Miller's Crossing. And rounding off the last 10 of the 100 group was 91 at Strange Brew.
Nice, nice. And real quick, I want to talk about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and this is kind of a stand-in for all kung fu movies. I was a huge fan of
Right,
kung fu movies. Kung fu movies were always, big part of my young life. I loved them. The uh, Shaolin monks of the world, and Enter the Dragons of the world. And Crouching Tiger, of course, revived that kung fu genre in a really great way. And Ang Lee so talented, and the cast is so great. So that's what
right.
made my list. And so it's kind of a stand-in for kung fu movies in general.
Yeah, and for me, Palm Springs made this list, which is a recent film. Actually, just came out last year, but I've watched it multiple times now, and I've enjoyed it every time. So it was one of the few recent films to make the list for me. A couple of my other ones were Wayne's World, which I saw probably 6 times in the theater when I was in high school. So that's just got a soft spot in my heart. And then Strange Brew was a classic in our household growing up. Bob and Doug McKenzie. So
Nice,
lots of
nice.
fun, and yeah, you can
Yeah,
see why we say quality is not necessarily one of the perceived quality, right?
right,
Um,
right. I think yeah. I mean, the idea is the impact part of it, and so like I'll mention Miller's Crossing, which really had an impact on
right,
me with sort of a not an introduction, but at the same time, a sort of a cementing of the fact that the Coen brothers are geniuses. And it was on our forgotten film list recently, and
right,
it was my pick actually. Loved this film, um, and can't say enough about how cool it is in tone and sort of this homage to gangster films. And then also, Interview with the Vampire is probably not a great movie, but at the same time, it's got so much style, and it sort of represents a kind of a departure at the time of the vampire genre, and so it was just really cool. And it's why I made my list, and it's certainly one of my favorites.
right. There's quite a few movies on this list that we've covered in our forgotten films. So if you are interested, go ahead and check them out, and maybe we'll make mention of the other ones that are on this list as well. So you can go back into our archives and listen to old podcasts that we've talked about these.
Definitely, because there's some gems. There's certainly some gems, and
Yeah,
you're right. There's a lot on this list that have been in our forgotten film list. So, very cool. And I guess we should, move to the next batch real quick,
right.
and let me
Numbers
run those.
90 through 81, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let me run those down. So number 90 is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which is definitely on both of our lists. Number 89, The Five Heartbeats. Number 88, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Number 87, another on both of our lists, The Royal Tenenbaums. Number 86, Wally. Number 85, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, again on both of our lists. And I will say before I finish this, is we saw this together in the theater.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, number 84, Say Anything. Number 83, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Number 82, Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. And number 81, Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah. So one of the ones that might stick out on here for our listeners, and maybe you, Martin, is Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Die Hard series up until Die Hard with a Vengeance. So the first three, I guess. Um, and I don't know, something about that film when it came out. I really enjoyed it, and it just sparked my interest even more in the original films, Die Hard and Die Hard 2. Die Hard 2 did not make my list, even though I probably saw that in the theaters like 6 times as well. But
Right, right. It's cool. I mean, it's you like the movie. No, don't apologize for it. I liked the movie too. It didn't make my list, and it's certainly, in my opinion, not as good as the original for sure. But
right.
but yeah, I mean, this is our favorite movies. We make no bones about them, right? So on this on mine is called The Five Heartbeats, and this is one of two Robert Townsend films
Right.
that made the list for me. And The Five Heartbeats is just a movie that's right up my alley. It's a music movie about sort of a fictional R&B group and their evolution, or their life story over the years, from the inception when they were kids into their retirement almost as old men in their journey through this 60s and 70s of music, and it's fantastic. There's some great music, but my soft heart for music subjects really makes this one stand out. Great cast, and again, the subject matter is handled so well. So if people haven't seen it, it's one of the movies that some people love to death,
Right.
and a lot of people know this movie backward and forward, and some people have never even seen it because it
I
was a
have
little bit
never
of
seen it.
obscure. I would recommend it.
I think
I would
maybe we
recommend it.
should do a forgotten film on this one, and maybe the other one that's coming up in the list as well. Because yeah, these those two were new to me. That I had not seen them, and in fact, I had not really even heard of them. So it's great that you're introducing me to new stuff. So hopefully, we're introducing other people to new stuff. I do want
Definitely.
to mention South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. It's kind of a funny one to have on here, but there's something about like when it came out, it was so surprising, like
Yeah.
what it was, because everybody knew South Park, the TV show, but they took it to a different level with the movie, and that's what they should do when they turn TV shows into a movie. And they made it a musical, and it was just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, they made this into a musical, and it's just like
Yeah.
it was not what you were expecting, and it's I think it still stands the test of time as a really funny musical, and it might even be more relevant today than it was when it came out.
Totally, and you're right about upping the game. I mean, we were big fans of South Park, the television show. I think everybody was at that time, and then the film. I think everybody would have been satisfied if it was just more of a longer episode.
Right.
But they weren't satisfied with that. They took it to, like you said, another level, and it was shocking and surprising and fantastic. So yeah, and I remember we all saw this. The old ASG crew, I think, saw this together. Uh, in the theaters, but it was, yeah, definitely something that was surprising and groundbreaking for animated films at the time.
Well, all right. Let's move on to the next batch of films. We have number 80, Chinatown. Number 79, Little Miss Sunshine. Number 78, Hollywood Shuffle. Number 77, True Romance. Number 76, Shaun of the Dead. Number 75, Atomic Blonde. Number 74, Remember the Titans. Number 73, Lone Star, which was a forgotten film that we did. Number 72, Saving Private Ryan, which was on both of our lists. And number 71 was Fargo.
Yeah, this is, man. It's so funny. All these are great movies. Honestly, like you mentioned, some of yours should have been on my list, maybe. But again, all subjective, and they
Right.
just weren't. They just couldn't knock off one of my favorites. But I'll talk about Robert Townsend one more time in this, just to introduce Hollywood Shuffle and why it's on the list. Hollywood Shuffle is kind of one of the early truly indie films. And Robert Townsend came out of nowhere with this comedy, and it's about Hollywood, and it's about the struggles of young African Americans in Hollywood. And yet it's done with love and fun. And, he really breaks a lot of ground and was super inspiring. Again, it's another, we'll have another film on this that I'm sure is the reason for it, on both of our lists is more the story behind it than just the film itself. But this one, he did with credit cards and some of his acting salary, and really broke out and became a major talent in Hollywood for quite some time. And again, very impactful in terms of indie filmmaking.
And I just thought I'd also mention that, Shaun of the Dead is on here. We mentioned Scott Pilgrim earlier. There's
Hmm.
several Edgar Wright films on our list. So you'll see
Yep.
that
Yep.
as a recurring theme. One I wanted to point out is a favorite of mine that maybe we might need to do a forgotten film on it. Uh, because I don't think it got as much love as I think it should have when it came out, as Atomic Blonde.
Absolutely.
The style of
Yes.
that movie alone just like ratchets it up another level. And I just think people missed out on it when it came out. I don't know why it didn't do so hot at the box office, but it's just, I was blown away by it. And so it had to make my top 100.
No, I think you're right. And if I recall, the year that it came out, we did our sort of best of end of the year, and it was on
Mm,
both of our number one slot because it was that fantastic. I agree with you. It's a really great film. Um, it didn't come to mind when I was doing my list, but at the same time, I can't disagree with you. It's a fantastic film.
And then Fargo is on here again for the Coen brothers. So that's another one that's gonna pop up a couple times on this list. So, and we
Definitely,
already
definitely.
mentioned Miller's Crossing.
Yep,
So
absolutely, absolutely. So, um, I'd love to talk about more of these, but let's move on to the next batch in 70 through 61, and let's talk about them. And if we get to the end and we really want to come back to them, we will. So,
right,
number 70, Amelie. Number 69, Train Spotting. Number 68, Speed. Number 67, Once. Number 66, Gladiator. Number 65, Strange Days. Number 64, Dark City. Number 63, Office Space. Number 62, Akira. And number 61, Billy Madison.
yeah. And this was one batch in this list that we did not have any overlap on these. So these are some of I guess, our favorite movies of our own choosing. But I still liked a lot of these movies, like we said before. But a couple ones that I want to point out that could be eligible for forgotten film movies are Strange Days and Dark City. They're
Yes.
both sci-fi films. Strange Days is done by Catherine Bigelow. It's a really good action sci-fi film. I think part of the issue with Strange Days is when it came out. It was right before Y2K, and it was set in the future of 1999, so
Yeah, yeah,
maybe it doesn't
yeah,
hold up as well right
exactly.
now. Um, it was already like way too far flung future to me to be 1999 when it came out. I think it was 95 when it came out. So
Right,
the
right.
technology was like super advanced for something that was 4 years down the road. But despite that, it's a really good movie. And then number 64, Dark City. Once again, we talk about style. Like we talked about with Atomic Blonde. Dark City is all about style, but it's got a good story too, and some really good performances by Rufus Sewell, who
Hmm.
is a pretty
Hmm.
underrated actor, if you ask me. And
Hmm.
Jennifer Connelly's in it too. And it's just a really good, dark, moody film, hence the title Dark City. But check that out. And
No, Dark City.
oh,
I
and I
mean,
have to mention Billy Madison, which is just
of course.
ridiculously stupid, but it's just a eminently quotable movie that had to go on my list.
Totally, totally. Now, one of the things, Dark City was definitely a great film. And in fact, we used elements of Dark City sonically for our music back in the day.
Right.
So it had a heavy influence. One thing I wasn't sure. Once was not on my list or was not on your list because it
It
should
was
have been
not
on
on
mine.
my list. It was
Oh, I
on
thought.
your
Okay,
list.
okay, okay,
I really like that movie, but it just didn't crack the top 100 for
okay.
me. I
No,
think
no,
it was
I
actually
did.
I think it
I
actually
thought.
was on my list because I think I came up with like 116
Yeah,
titles and I had
I
to
thought I
eliminate
saw it
some.
on your list, but maybe it was not on the top 100 list.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. No, no. Once is a fantastic film. We talked about it briefly recently, so um, you know, people can check that out. We both really like that film. It does, again, another music movie that really captures the essence of being a young music artist. I wanted to talk about Train Spotting,
Mhm.
and Train Spotting was a fantastic film, and it was one of the films that was talked about all the time on sets, on independent film sets in Atlanta. I know for a fact that this is one of the films that we always talked about as crew members and and making films. I remember lots of conversations on this, and this is, of course, was Danny Boyle's introduction to the world for the most part. He had a film called Shallow Grave ahead of that,
Right.
but Train Spotting really captured everyone's attention because of how cool it was. It was just a cool film, and it was so well done, and really just kind of captured the '90s moment at the time. And the other one I want to talk about is Akira, and Akira is the
I love
film that
Akira
really
actually.
opened my eyes to Japanese animation and anime, and I fell in love with it. It's still my favorite of the genre, but it got me addicted, and so I started watching a lot of anime after I discovered Akira. So that's why it's on this list.
One thing I will say about Akira is that I love the movie, but the manga that it's based off of, the
Uh huh.
comic book series, is 100 times better than the movie.
Man, then I've got to read that then because
It's
I
massive though. It went for several issues. Like it was long, but it tells the same story in this long, so you get like so much
Hmm.
more to the story. It's a little bit different than the movie, but yeah,
Nice.
you need to read it. It's really good.
Well, I definitely need to do that because I just assumed I it's so because Akira itself is a massive movie.
Right.
It's not a short film. I mean, this is
No.
a massive undertaking, and so I assumed it captured it. So I'll definitely check into
And then all I gotta say about that is Akira
it.
Tetsuo
Tetsuo.
Akira Tetsuo. I said,
Yes.
why do they have to scream at each other before they shoot? You're giving away where you're coming from. Anyway, yeah. So let's move on.
Yeah.
I think this batch is yours, Mark. Or is this mine? I don't know.
Ah, it's yours.
Oh, it's mine. Okay, right. No,
Yeah.
okay. So batch 60 through 51. We start out with number 60, which is Scratch. 59, Fantastic Mr. Fox. 58, In Bruges. 57, Cinema Paradiso. 56, True Stories. 55, Beat Street. 54, 8 Mile, which was on both of our lists. 53, Son of Rambo. 52, Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. And 51 is Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. This again, man. This is such a great group.
Yeah, yeah. I would put this group up against a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and
I
there's
wanted
two forgotten films that we've done in here. If
another
you want to
two.
learn more about them, True Stories
Yes.
and Son of Rambo.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll talk really quickly about Scratch and Beat Street and 8 Mile. Might as well throw it in there. These are all hip hop films.
Right,
Scratch is a fantastic documentary about DJs, DJ culture, and it's so good, so well done. And if you have any interest in DJ culture, you should watch this documentary because it really goes in depth and it does cover most of the early pioneers of hip hop DJing. And so I can't say enough about how good this film is. Beat Street is not a good movie at all, honestly, but I've watched it 400 times probably
right,
because it had been, it was one of our movies as a kid that we really just captured our imagination with the b-boying and the breakdancing, and so it's just one that had a big impact on my life. I mean, not that it's a good film, but it's at its heart, it's a hip hop film that cares about the subject matter, and so it really resonated. And again, 8 Mile, same thing, different era.
right. I want to talk about Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is Wes Anderson film. There's
Yeah.
a couple different Wes Anderson films on this list,
Hmm.
but this one, don't be mistaken if you haven't watched it because you think it's a kids movie. It is, pardon the pun, fantastic.
Absolutely.
It's just so well done. The voice cast is tremendous. The stop animation is great. It's got the Wes Anderson style that you see in all his films, but in animated form. He did a similar thing with Isle of Dogs, but I think Fantastic Mr. Fox is head and shoulders above that one, and maybe a
Hmm.
tail. Haha, pun.
Yes, a nice foxtail ahead of it.
But yeah, I would recommend checking that out, even if you think might have dismissed it as a kids movie. And then I mentioned In Bruges on our last podcast, and
Hmm.
Colin Farrell's terrific in this film. And once again, it's one of those films that's got some nice style to it. It's moody, but humorous at the same time. And if you haven't seen that, I would recommend checking that out as well. Of course, I'd recommend checking out every movie on this list. But
All of these, absolutely. And before we get to the next batch, I'm going to say Cinema Paradiso, and that's all I'm going to say. Next batch is 50 through 41, and they are as follows: 50, Die Hard; 49, Swingers; 48, Groundhog Day; 47, Rushmore; 46, Metropolitan; number 45, 28 Days Later; number 44, Three Kings; number 43, Chungking Express; number 42, The Breakfast Club; and number 41, Can't Hardly Wait.
this one, we didn't have any overlap either.
No,
I
but I
think that was
mean,
one.
again, it's another one where I certainly see why, and these certainly are movies that I would put on a longer list for sure.
Right, right. I think some of the people might be listening might be wondering why Can't Hardly Wait is so high up on the list, but it's just a film that I enjoy a ton.
Yeah,
Even though Breakfast Club is on here, it kind of harkens back to those '80s movies, but told in a '90s way.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think the cast is tremendous and Can't Hardly Wait, and
It
even
definitely.
even the smaller parts, the little
Hmm.
minor cameos are great, and it's just a fun movie. And another one, if you've like just kind of pushed it off thinking it might be, like a teen movie, it's
Right.
a little more than that. It's a little bit, it's funny, and I think you would enjoy it even if you might have thought it was just for teens.
I agree. It's a good movie. Ahead of Breakfast Club, though, I don't see it. But okay. But no, it's all good. It's again, this is just
Don't
favorites,
blame
which
me, blame the string theory.
that's right.
um,
That's right.
who knows the way the universe
Chaos
works.
math. Chaos math. But now I wanted to talk about Chungking Express in particular, and it's the only one of the Wong Kar Wai films that made this list, and it's again sort of representing Wong Kar Wai because he's a fantastic filmmaker from Hong Kong. He's got his own style, his own mood. It's really revelatory sort of filmmaking, especially if you discovered it when I did back in the day. But Chungking Express is probably the most accessible of them, other than maybe In the Mood for Love. But I lean toward Chungking Express. It's a fantastic little film, and if you are at all interested in sort of Hong Kong cinema from the '90s and the early 2000s, you ought to take a look and check into it.
This is one I haven't seen yet either. I need to check that out. I've heard about it and I've heard good things about it. I just haven't got around to seeing it. I did want to mention 28 Days Later, which is on this list for me. One
Hmm.
of the things I love about this movie is it's Danny Boyle again, but it was shot on a Canon XL1, which was the
Right.
same camera that I owned when it came out in theaters. So, as a filmmaker, as a indie filmmaker, it gave me hope that
Totally.
if they could do it, and it also showed that like limit you can't be limited by what equipment you have. We talked about this before, like using equipment as a crutch to making films is not something you can do. You can still tell a creative tale no matter what equipment you have.
Right.
And the way they shot 28 Days Later, it made it feel like almost like a documentary style because it was
Hmm.
shot on
Hmm.
video,
Yep.
and they managed to tell a really intriguing story and a very powerful story. And I just once again I just would this is on here partially because of the filmmaking involved in it. Um,
Totally. No, I agree. It was very inspirational in that sense for sure. I'm going to really briefly say Swingers, another seminal indie film for sure, and eminently watchable still to this day. So I want to say that. And of course, Metropolitan as well. We did cover this in a Forgotten
yep,
Film. So
yep,
check that out if you want to hear more about Metropolitan, and I suggest you do.
right. So moving on to the next batch of films, we have 40 through 31. We'll start out with 40, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 39 is Ghostbusters. Number 38 is To Live. Number 37 is 12 Monkeys. Number 36 is 10 Things I Hate About You, which was on both of our lists as well. 12 Monkeys was on both of our lists as well. Number 35 is Gridlocked. Number 34 is Rogue One, which was on both of our lists. Number 33 is Dodgeball. 32 is Citizen Kane, two movies that probably couldn't be farther apart from each other on the film spectrum. And then 31 is The Usual Suspects, which was on both of our lists.
But the great thing about it is they couldn't be further apart on the spectrum, but they're right together on
They're
this
right next
list.
to each
And
other
I
on this
think
list.
I think they belong together, honestly, in a weird way. I did want to say a couple of quick things. Obviously, Rogue One, we love Rogue One for a lot of reasons. We talked about that on the show. Um, 12 Monkeys, a great sci-fi film, but in a different way. In
Right.
a lot of it's certainly kind of a just a down and dirty sci-fi film, and it's fantastic. And one of the most controversial film in this batch is 10 Things I Hate About You, not because it's controversial and not good, but just because of how far apart they were relatively on the list, but then it ended up higher on the list. So we did make adjustments, of course, string theory. like you mentioned. But don't take anything away from it. It's a good movie, and again, a lot like Can't Hardly Wait. More than just sort of a regular teen film, in my opinion.
Right, right. And I wanted to bring up Guardians of the Galaxy. I believe is the only Marvel film on our list, which is kind of surprising considering we're both Marvel fans. Um,
Yes, yes. One, yeah. There was one other one that didn't make the final list that was on one of the lists,
right.
but
I
you're
had a
right.
couple on mine too, but they just weren't
Mhm.
ranked high enough to like when we
Right.
combined them to figure out,
E-
where to fit them in. But for me, Guardians of
Exactly.
the Galaxy is my favorite Marvel film, which is how it got on this list.
Hmm.
And it's just something that's so, I think, clever and just a different take on superheroes and sci-fi, putting them together and coming up with a really fun romp of a movie. And I never thought I would see uh, Rocket and Groot on the big screen, but it was really cool that they're out there and they've become Marvel mainstays now. So everybody knows who they are. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely,
Kind of
absolutely.
cool.
I'm so glad they did because they are fantastic. And I do like that movie quite a bit too. So it's worthy of the list for sure.
And then one more I wanted to mention was Gridlocked, which is a movie that maybe not a lot of people saw,
Hmm.
but it stars Tupac and Eric Roth, and they play two drug addicts who are trying to kick, and they're trying to get help, but they're gridlocked at every corner due to bureaucracy and all the other, bunch of other things that happen. And it's a very interesting film. And in my opinion, one of Tupac's best performances.
Yeah, I think you're right about everything except Tim Roth, not Eric Roth. I think
Oh,
Eric Roth
sorry,
is the screenwriter and not
I'm sorry,
necessarily the actor.
Tim Roth. Yes, I don't know why I said Eric Roth, but yes, Tim Roth. Uh, uh,
No.
it's also got Thandie Newton in it. Or actually, she's going by a different name now. Thandiwe Newton, I think is what she wants to be called.
What?
So
Okay.
I apologize for not saying her name correctly.
Whoops. Whoops.
And yeah, so it's a fun movie. It's based around music as well. They're jazz
Hmm.
musicians in the
Hmm.
film. Um,
That's a good. I mean, it's a good movie. It just, like I said, it didn't make my list, but again, it's worthy for sure. So I guess let's talk about the next batch, which is 30 through 21. And so now people are really going to start, I think, connecting with a lot of these because who could argue with some of these titles is not the best of all time. So number 30, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 29, Chasing Amy, which was on both of our lists. Number 28, Bottle Rocket. Number 27, The Godfather. Number 26, another on both of our lists, Love Actually. Number 25, Hot Fuzz, yet another Edgar Wright film. Number 24, Super Troopers. Number 23, Hoop Dreams on both of our lists. Number 22, Dances with Wolves. And number 21, also on both of our lists, Seven.
I, I find it hard that we didn't both put Raiders of the Lost Ark on our list, but I don't know if it wasn't on my list or wasn't on your list.
It was on mine, so
Okay, so it wasn't on my
somehow you
list.
left it on yours. Somehow you
It's
left
kind
it
of
off of
weird.
yours.
Anyway, yeah, we'll just we'll blame it on string theory again. But yeah, yeah, some great movies here. Some classics. Godfather, of course.
Hmm.
Dances with Wolves, and then we got some of the more crazier ones like Super Troopers, which is up on this list because of me. It's one of my favorite films. It's just so funny. I just can't get enough of it. Saw it at Sundance when it premiered. It was just the energy in the room was through the roof. And I've been following, Broken Lizard's career since then, and I don't know. I love that film. Can't really talk much
Definitely.
about it. I can't really say what's so special about it. It's just funny.
It just tickles your fancy. That's
All
all.
right.
It's cool. Hot Fuzz is one I really like a lot too, but it wasn't on my list. But certainly fantastic film. Of these, I will talk really quickly about Chasing Amy, and it's on both of our lists. And part of the reason is again, the Kevin Smith story is so inspirational, and sort of this was kind of a comeback for him. He had done so well with Clerks, and then sort of fell off the radar a little bit, and then came back really strong with a small movie with a big impact, which was Chasing Amy. And so I know that was personally inspiring to me. Again, as an indie filmmaker, for being able to tell such a you know a story that resonates on such a small scale, and just be able to really pull it off and let it connect with big audiences.
Hmm.
So that's why it's on definitely on my list, and I'm sure probably same reason on yours.
True, true. And then I also wanted to point out, you mentioned Hot Fuzz, and some people might be wondering, how is Hot Fuzz higher than Shaun of the Dead? Because Shaun of the Dead's like such a classic. To me, it's because Hot Fuzz is just Edgar Wright is epitome, right? Excellent editing, just funny as hell, just better filmmaker at this point.
Right. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, I think Hot Fuzz is a better movie than Shaun of the Dead, even though Shaun of the Dead is the classic Edgar Wright film. But to me, Hot Fuzz is my favorite.
No, totally. I mean, he totally matured as a filmmaker, and so it was definitely better. I mean, objectively better. But yeah, I mean, and just as fun, in my opinion, as
Right.
Shaun of the Dead.
All right. So now we have reached the top 20. So we're going to spend a little bit longer dissecting these. Most of these are on the list, or on both of our lists. I'll actually say the ones that weren't on both of our lists just for ease of discussion. So we start out with number 20. It's Goodfellas, which was not on both of our lists. It was on Martin's list. Number 19 was Wedding Crashers. Number 18, Do the Right Thing, was on Martin's list, but not mine. Maybe should have been on mine, but very close. Number 17 is JFK, which was also on Martin's list, but not on mine. And then the rest of them are all on. The rest of them all the way out were on both of our lists.
Yep.
Number 16, The Matrix. Number 15, Almost Famous. Number 14, Dazed and Confused. Number 13, Glengarry Glen Ross. Number 12, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And number 11, Back to the Future. So, Martin, why don't you talk about the ones that I didn't put on my list and tell me why I'm stupid for not putting them on my list?
It's not that you're stupid. It's just it's just that they didn't resonate with you the same way they did with me. I mean, Goodfellas is a modern classic. Scorsese, probably at his finest. Some people may say Raging Bull
Mm-hmm.
is him at his finest. But Goodfellas is just a fantastic film. Great acting, great filmmaking, powerful performances, and just again, a wonderful film, and hard to argue with the talent of a Scorsese and Joe Pesci, and
Right.
and everybody involved, honestly. So again, though, this is just our favorite. So it
Right.
just didn't happen to make your list. It's not a big deal. Do the right thing. Maybe a little more of what are you thinking? This is Spike Lee
This
at
is
his
one of the
best.
ones, like, if we would have put together like the 120, it would have been on there. I mean, this like
Right.
just missed my list,
Right.
honestly.
Well, I mean, Do the Right Thing is so powerful. It's Spike Lee at his best, at his absolute best. And, it's a shame he can't get this level all the time, because it's a treasure for everyone to see. I mean, Do the Right Thing, so powerful, such a message dealt with in a harsh way, and yet an entertaining way, in a fun way.
Hmm.
Um, and in a lot of ways, and so it just captures all of life. Honestly, the film does, and it's and again, very powerful. Great performances by everybody, especially I want to say Ossie Davis.
Right.
Uh, really, roots the film in sort of a classic neighborhood vibe, and Sam Jackson was wonderful as the DJ. And again, just Giancarlo Esposito. I mean, it's just the cast is
Hmm.
fantastic. John Turturro,
John Turturro,
um,
Danny
a,
Aiello.
a
Yeah.
modern classic, yeah, a modern classic, and so just very powerful. And if you've never seen it, then you're in for a treat. You can watch it, and really catch the vibe of a wonderful film from a wonderful filmmaker. And then quickly, JFK. Again, this is an example of one of, at the time, my favorite directors at the top of his game, which was Oliver Stone. And this is the story of the assassination of JFK, and the only case that was ever brought. Um, in that assassination, other than the original, like the original idea that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone. This was the
Right.
only case that ever was brought saying that there was other people involved. And again, fantastic performances, virtuoso filmmaking, and it may not be, it may not be factually correct because it certainly has its own point of view,
Right.
but it does make you think about things, and again, immensely entertaining. There's a part of this film that you just gets you so engrossed that you really are on the edge of your seat, and so that's what great filmmaking is. And so, I just think it's a fantastic film.
So, Martin, you might want to take away my filmmaking card, but I've never seen JFK. So that's why it got knocked down to 17, even though it was number one on your list. So,
Right. Well,
uh,
and I get it. I get it because it sounds like a heavy film. It sounds like a film that is a lot of work, right?
right.
But I promise you, it's not a lot of work. It's a film, and
I'm
it's
sure I would
very
enjoy it. I'm sure I would
engaging.
enjoy it. But yeah, it's just one of those films that I just never got around to seeing. And
Mhm.
maybe next time it pops up on one of my streaming services, I'll check it out. Let's talk about the ones that were on both of our lists
Okay.
before we get into the top 10.
Yep.
We got Wedding Crashers, which is just a really funny movie pairing Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson together. Just really
Yeah.
good pairing there.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
Matrix, which is just a groundbreaking sci-fi film. Some of the filmmaking techniques they employed in that movie are used ad nauseum today in sci-fi films. So
Definitely. Definitely.
it's just an entertaining movie too. I'm not going to say anything about the sequels, but there we go. Almost Famous. This is one of your boys. So
Absolutely. Yeah, this is fantastic filmmaking. The vibe of it just captures sort of the vibe of being young on the
right,
verge of adulthood and being sort of connected to music, which I think a lot of people feel connected to music. But when you see a film like this, you understand why people are connected to music. And Cameron Crowe, does a fantastic job. This is,
oh yeah.
just,
The one scene alone where they're on the bus singing Tiny Dancer is just
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's just
Fantastic.
beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Gives you the feels.
Dazed and Confused. Um, Excellent film, great
Hmm.
cast, very indie, but a
Yep.
lot of those people that were in it became big stars in a lot of in a lot of indie films, but even bigger films
Yeah.
out of it. Just a fun film. Another one that harkens back to days gone by that
Yeah.
kind of
Totally.
nostalgia you have
Totally.
nostalgia for. The last day of
Abs-
school is always a very vivid memory, and that's kind of
Absolutely.
what this covers.
Absolutely. So Glengarry and Ross, I know it's on both of our lists, and one of the most quotable movies of all time. For a
Right.
certain set. I don't think it may not be for everybody, but for a
No.
certain collection of people like us, it's so quotable. And again, man, such a powerhouse cast
Right.
giving powerful performances. I mean,
And
everyone
the
from
script is just tremendous.
oh,
It's like a masterclass in how to write dialogue to me.
absolutely. David Mamet, is
Yeah.
is a wonderful writer, and again, just almost a perfect film. And again, such a small sort of scope, but
Right.
yet a powerful film.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Another one to me where the filmmaking is tremendous. Just the style of it,
Yeah,
going back to the old Depression era. It's just like the way that the muted tones about it, but it's so talk about a quotable movie.
yeah.
This is one of the most quotable movies of all time, if you ask me. There's just so many good lines in it. You know, I don't want I don't want Dapper Dan. God damn it! I don't want Fop. God
Exactly.
damn it! I'm a Dapper Dan man.
He's a Dapper Dan
Just
man.
stuff like that. Ain't this place a geographical oddity? 2 weeks from everywhere.
Yep. Yep.
Such a good movie, and I think to me it's just Coen Brothers at their peak. Even though we got
Yep.
another Coen Brothers movie to come, but um, I just love this film.
No,
It's
it's
tremendous.
fantastic. It's fantastic.
And
Back to the
then
Future is, real quick, is a classic film. Obviously,
classic,
you know, wonderful '80s film. captures sort of the imagination of anybody who wants to reset themselves,
Right.
and they again, Michael J. Fox is fantastic in the film, and the film is just fun. I mean, there's nothing else. Honestly, this is probably the one I can say the least about why it's good. It's just
It's
good.
just fun. It's a funny
Yeah.
movie. Yeah. Yeah. 1.21 gigawatts. Um,
Great Scott.
Great Scott. Marty. Marty. Um, yeah, so that does it for the top 20. Let's go into the top 10. So
Right.
this one we're gonna talk about each of these movies as we roll through them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So number 10 is Ocean's 11, which is the remake Ocean's 11, the one with George Clooney.
Correct.
But
Correct. Yeah. And this is, again, talk about fun. I mean, this is all about getting the gang together,
right,
a bunch of fun actors doing a fun movie under the tutelage of a really fantastic director who's having fun too.
right.
And again, like a heist film, heist films are fun by their nature. And this one just kind of captures all of that spirit and puts it all together in a really entertaining package.
Yeah, the original was like Frank Sinatra getting his buddies together, and this is George Clooney getting his buddies together to make a movie, and you could tell, and the movie's about getting people together, right? So,
Yep. Yep.
but you could tell they're just having so much fun on it, and it's just a fun watch, and it's well done. It's like I just
Yeah.
like the way it's shot too. The
Oh
soundtrack's
yeah.
really cool.
Hmm.
Um, it's just this movie is in the top 10 for me because it's so rewatchable. I have watched this movie over and over. I probably wore out my DVD playing it over and over again.
Right. Right.
It's just a ton of fun.
Definitely. Definitely. So number 9, Pulp Fiction, and
Right,
this is Quentin Tarantino at the height of his powers,
right.
and certainly, again, almost all these we're going to say are like powerhouse performances from a great cast, and
Hmm.
great directing and great dialogue and great writing, and that's this film. But you know what else? What it was at the time? It was surprising,
Right.
which is a key element for a film to be memorable, is for it to surprise you somehow. And this had elements that you had never seen before. This had, it played, I mean, you've seen it before, but you didn't notice it
Not in this way.
like
Yeah.
this
Not
way.
all
Exactly.
together. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Playing with the timeline, playing,
Right.
and just some of the stuff that happens in the film is like a shock, and so just a fun film to boot. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Again, that's really all you can say. And it's basically a great writer director at the height of his powers with a wonderful cast.
I would say that this is Quentin Tarantino giving a history lesson in film.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
in a very entertaining way. But he draws some elements of older Hollywood films to bring it and mix it all together and tell a tale that, yeah, like you said, was surprising when it came out, uh, and just, yeah, the way he told the stories, and the kind of vignettes, but told out of order, and
Right. Right.
intersecting, and the characters weaving in and out, and it's just, yeah, like you said, a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Number 8 is The Big Lebowski. So this is what I meant when we had the other Coen Brothers film coming up.
Yep.
While Oh Brother might have been them at their height of filmmaking, if you ask me, The Big Lebowski is them having, and once again, they're just a ton of fun, right?
Right. Right.
There's
Right.
just so much elements to this that are just so goofy and irrational, but they all work together. And
Yeah.
you go from the marmots in the bathroom, and
Uh huh.
the
Uh huh.
the German nihilists, and
Yes.
just all the craziness that is involved, and it's just a wild tale, and it's just and then Jeff Daniels is just uh, he made a character that's just iconic.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. And not to mention, some of the Coen brothers' favorite people keep coming back and doing
right?
a fantastic job, from Steve Buscemi,
Yeah,
John
John
Goodman,
Goodman. Yeah,
even John Turturro. makes
Right.
a cameo that is hilarious and memorable, and just you really can't say enough about how absurd this film is, and yet it
Right.
still works. It still works,
And of
and
course,
so
Sam Elliott narrating it, just as
oh
the
yes.
stranger. It's just a perfect narrator, but totally out of place in the film. And it's just so.
And then
Oh,
even that element of you don't know it until later, and he breaks the fourth wall later in the
right.
film,
Yeah.
and it's just things that shouldn't work, but they do.
Yeah. Definitely. Just
And
yeah,
so yeah,
so good.
so no, so
I just feel
we
like
we
I'm
could talk.
repeating myself. It's so good, so funny, so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. We can talk all night about all of these, so we got to try and contain ourselves. But number
right,
7 is Fight Club, and of course, this is David Fincher directed, Brad
right,
Pitt and Edward Norton starring in this film. And again, the impressive part about this film is it was so surprising. You know what I mean? And not surprise. I
right,
mean, like nothing shocks you about the film, but just the effect it had on you when you watched it was what was surprising, and it's so
right,
so powerful. It did deal with a lot of ideas, that people don't discuss. Some of the things that are below the surface. You know what I mean? In everyone's mind, and I think it really made you think, as well as being entertaining, and some fantastic performances from everyone involved. Helena Bonham Carter, fantastic,
right.
in the film.
Meatloaf.
Um, yeah. Oh my gosh, Meatloaf was was awesome, in
Right.
the film. And so yeah, I mean, it's a revelation on so many levels. And again, David Fincher is one of our best directors going, and so this
Right.
is probably him at the height of his powers.
And yeah, using the unreliable narrator to
Hmm.
great effect, and just telling a tremendous story that you don't know where it's going. And it was so shocking to see, how it all comes together. Um, I don't know if anybody really expected it to turn out the way that it did. And yeah, it's a really good movie. Well shot, some really classic scenes in it. Um, and then the music that they picked for it are really great too.
Hmm.
That ending scene with the Pixie song in the background,
Ah, yeah, yeah.
it's just perfect way to end a film.
It's one of the films, and of the rest of these movies, it's the kind of film, as a filmmaker, you wish you would have made,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's so good.
Great. All right. Number 6 is The Empire Strikes Back. It is the second Star Wars movie on our list.
Yes, and this one is such a, this one at times is my favorite Star Wars movie, and yet
Right.
I didn't rank it as the best Star Wars movie on this list,
Right.
only because it switches, it changes for me.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, we talked about that before when we do our top threes. These lists. You ask us tomorrow; these are going to be a little
right,
bit different. But
right.
yeah,
But I mean, what else can you say about Empire Strikes Back? I mean, Empire Strikes Back, when you're a kid watching it, it's so inspirational and so amazing to you that this world exists. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so you know, you've got the characters that were established in the first film, coming back and amazing you even more than they did the first time, and it's just an epic sci-fi masterpiece in terms of thrilling popcorn movies.
right. And it's probably one of the best told Star Wars movies, if you ask me.
Sure.
Um, the script is generally good, which you
Hmm.
can't say for a lot of Star Wars movies
Right.
because
Exactly. Exactly.
even though the ideas are fantastical and you are entertained, you wouldn't necessarily say that the Star Wars scripts are the highest literature out there. But
Right.
um, this one is really well told, and also once again, it was shocking for the time, like the way it ended.
Yes. Oh, totally. Totally.
Spoiler alert, it ends on a down note, which is like, what? You're going to do that in a Star Wars movie?
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
Yep.
well. And then everybody was excited to see where things would go from there. Probably one of the original ideas for a franchise, coming out of this. Like, you really, Marvel takes it, the same way, where you set up the next film leave them wanting more. And Empire Strikes Back really did that. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So moving on, number 5.
Who's takes this one
I
first?
think this is yours.
Okay, so Memento is on both of our lists. It had a huge impact on both of us. We discovered this film out of Sundance, which is one of our favorite places to go and experience. And this film, again, we keep talking about this element and why it creates these films that are on our list, and it's surprise. I mean, the way this film is made, the way this film comes together, um, is a surprise, and
Right.
it is so sort of groundbreaking. The method in which it was done and the way it came across, that powerful. And again, indie,
Mm-hmm.
a small movie with a huge impact. And so it obviously introduced the world to, even though he had made a film before, but introduced the world to Christopher Nolan, who's one of the biggest filmmakers, doing grand scale films these days. But
Right.
here he came to the forefront doing a small scale film with a huge impact. Of course, with the help of his brother, but at the same time, you know, he was the visionary behind it, and certainly, had a huge impact on, well, obviously both of us. It's number 5 on the list.
Right. And so experimental in the way it's told, and very well done that way. I mean, this, like you said, it does show Christopher Nolan, like when he was first, you know, becoming Christopher Nolan, right?
Right, right.
Telling his like stories in a totally inventive way, and it works really well. As opposed to maybe Tenet, which maybe he's
Yeah,
gone a little too far for some people. Which I haven't seen Tenet yet, but from my understanding, it's very confusing. This
it,
is
it's
this is a
I've seen
movie
it
that
twice, and it is. But yeah,
Memento is a movie that could have been confusing,
absolutely could have
but
been.
it works.
Yeah, and
And
I think the clarity of the finality of this is what makes it work so well, because
right.
it could be really confusing, honestly. But the way it's pulled off and the clarity of it being pulled off, makes it, button up so well, and makes it so impactful.
Well, all right, we're going to number 4 now, and we're almost to the hour mark. Thank you for sticking with us on this extended episode, but hopefully it's interesting enough for you to want to see what's coming up in the top 3. But number 4 is Rudy. So talk about
Rudy.
a movie that doesn't surprise.
No.
This is pure sentimentality, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's just this is such a feel good movie that you can't help but smile when you watch it and just enjoy the hell out of it. And it's just one of those, once again, it's one of those movies I've seen over and over and over again. But it's the epitome of the underdog to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is why it was such a shame it got knocked out so early in our tournament. But
Oh, yeah. That was unbelievable. That was
I'm not.
unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, the 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 less we say about this, the better, because it's really all about making us feel good. The film makes us
Right.
feel good because the character makes us feel good, and the story makes us feel good, and it's one of those films that makes you believe that it's possible. You know what I mean? Whatever
Yep.
it is you want to do is possible. If Rudy can do it, you can do it.
There you go. You can even become Colonel Sanders, just like Rudy did. Did you see those commercials, by the way?
Yes, I did.
I don't know. Anyway, number 3, Martin. This one's yours.
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption. This is, ranks high on a lot of lists, of course, and I think for me and probably for you, Mike, as well, this is just one of the most rewatchable films ever. And again, uh, good story, well told. It does have a little bit of sentimentality to it. It's got a great ending. It's got a few surprises along the way. Again, just fine filmmaking, good story, well told, and solid. And again, for me, the rewatchability of it. I mean, if it's on, I'm watching it.
Yeah, that's it for me, and that's why it was actually number 1 on my list. I, yeah, I will watch this movie when they play it on TNT or whatever, and they'll do the marathon normally around Thanksgiving. It'll
Yeah,
be on back to back to back. I'll be flipping around stat channels. I'll catch like the last 45 minutes of Shawshank, and I'll be like, wow, I'll sit and watch it, even though that's 3/4 of the way into the movie, and still love it. And then the the next airing will show right after. Well, I might as well watch the
You
beginning
might as well
again,
watch the beginning again.
and and then I end up watching the whole thing. So I ended up watching it back to back.
Totally, totally. It's the movie that makes you wish Morgan Freeman was narrating your own
There you go.
life, so that you could get up in the morning and have him say, "Hey, get busy living or get busy dying," and then you'll get up and start living, and that's what it's all about. And so, in the end, again, just a fantastic rewatchable movie.
It's funny that two of our top 10 movies feature narrators with
Yeah,
really smooth voices that are really appealing.
definitely, definitely.
All right. So, number 2 is drumroll? No, Clerks. So yeah, I mean, what can we say about this? We've talked about Clerks a lot on our podcast,
Yeah,
but when we talked about earlier with Chasing Amy, but Kevin Smith I think has just been a huge inspiration for us as filmmakers. So this one, just of course, sentimental reasons, and just because you know, this is the whole reason why I got into filmmaking. It was Clerks. I was reviewing it for the Georgia Tech student paper, The Technique, at the time, and I was reading about the story behind it and how Kevin Smith, this guy that nobody's ever heard of, made this movie with his friends for no money and black and white, but yet it was so well done. It was so funny. Sure, sure it's not the best technical film, but it's just like once again I go back to the don't limit yourself by what you have. You can make something that's classic and it's going to stand the test of time, even on black and white film with amateur actors. If you just tell the story that you want to tell and tell it well. So Clerks, that's the
definitely.
reason why it's up so high for me.
Definitely, and I just have to say ditto, because I mean, basically, um, you know, I don't know if it was the actual film that made me decide to be a filmmaker, but it certainly was a huge reinforcement. And it's so funny you mentioned that you reviewed it for the Technique. You can basically you did that a year after I was gone from the Technique. I mean, you joined the Technique a year after I left the Technique, in terms of doing reviews. So I would have fought you for the review.
I,
Uh,
I took that paper to new heights, man.
you did. You definitely did.
I became
Uh,
entertainment editor. Actually, it's the whole reason why. I go back to I think Clark's is the whole reason why my life is the way it is. As crazy as that sounds, but how much impact films can have on your life. I was so into that movie and it just made me fall in love with filmmaking and just wanting to learn more about film. I was starting to review more movies. I got so into it. I became the entertainment editor at the Technique. I was a computer engineering major at the time, and I was so into this world of entertainment and writing and being creative
yeah,
that I transferred schools and became a
yeah,
journalism major and
yeah.
the whole time a writing major, and I was taking English classes and learning how to write and tell stories, and it just really kickstarted my entire career trajectory. So I have a lot to
Totally.
owe to that film.
No, I agree, and I mean, I think I think again, the inspiration of this film can't be understated. For people like us, and personally for me, for sure, and I know for you, for sure, it kept us going, and deciding to pursue this path of independent filmmaking, and I don't regret it. So thanks, Kevin Smith.
Right. All right. We have now reached the end of the Cinema ATL 100 with our top film. Before that, I'm going to recap all 100. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. You can read the top 100.
Yes.
We'll post it on Cinema ATL. Don't worry,
Yeah, definitely.
cinematl.com. Go to your Netscape Navigator 2.0 and go to
Yes, please
cinematl.com.
do.
But anyway, the number one film. Martin, take it away.
Star Wars. And this is actually the film that, again, as much as Clerks reinforced it for me, Star Wars was the first film that really fascinated me and got me interested in film. And again, not, I didn't get so into film, because I was a kid. I mean, I was a
Right.
little kid, a little kid
Right.
when I
Right.
saw Star Wars, but it was so engrossing and such a powerful sort of experience to watch this film that it made me open my eyes to what film actually was. Before it was just cartoons or whatever. This made me think like, how did this happen? And so it slowly got me into the interest level of films. And again, it's just a fantastic film. I mean, I don't think anybody can sort of disrespect Star Wars as a work of art in terms of it may not be the best movie technically, but the experience of it and the effect it had on cinema and in the world it can't really be sort of minimized.
Oh yeah, I mean it was groundbreaking the effects technology that they implemented. So
Right.
from a
Absolutely.
technical level, it is a objectively great movie from that
Absolutely.
level.
Hmm.
From a storytelling, you could debate it, but yeah, same with me though. This film got me into watching movies, and one of
Right.
my earliest memories as a child is, and I don't know why it's this scene, but it's the scene where they're getting their medals at the end of the movie.
Yes.
And I just vividly remember that scene, and I remember walking out of the theater being so excited that I had
Yes.
just seen Star Wars. And those are two of my earliest memories. And so that's what Star Wars means to me. It's just I've grown up with Star Wars. They're not going to kill it for me, no matter what they do to it. I
Yeah, they can
love it
try.
so much.
They give it a good effort.
Yeah, but
But
yeah,
no, I agree. You know what? Yeah, what you said is absolutely right. It was so groundbreaking for so many people. I mean, it's not just us. I know for sure that we can actually speak for so many people when we say that Star Wars really kicked off the interest in films and maybe you know saved films in a lot of ways. I know that
right.
there was a lot of movies that that may have had an impact in saving films, but I don't know if any other has had more of an impact for creating this mammoth cultural thing that is movies. Other than Star Wars.
Right. I don't know if I can say more about it, but yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's a perfect film. Even though it was like not number one on either of our lists, I think it's the perfect film for us to be number one
No,
on our
absolutely.
combined list.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
so anyway, that was the Cinema ATL 100. What did you think about the list? Let us know which movies you would pick. If there's something that we missed out on that you really think that we should check out, we'd love to hear from you. Please tweet us. Please comment on Instagram. We'd love to hear what you have to think. Please share
Definitely.
this with other people. Let's get the conversation going.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, I think this is the perfect episode for conversation. So you don't be shy. You gotta comment on these and tell us where we're wrong or tell us where we're right.
right, and like we said, these are our favorite movies. So we can't technically be wrong, but we could definitely be influenced in just thinking that maybe we should have put something higher, or maybe we should have put something a little bit lower, or maybe we forgot something entirely. But yeah, I mean, everybody's list is going to be different. I'd love to hear what other people have to say. If you haven't done it, try to make your own list. It's hard. It's hard to come
Yeah,
up with
it is
these
hard.
lists. Surprisingly, you're coming up with all these movies, and you're just like, man, oh, I forgot about this one. I forgot about this.
Yep.
So come up with your own. We'd love to. I'd love to see your own top 100 list. But anyway,
Absolutely. Yeah, and one thing I will say really quick before we break out, because I know we got to break out, but if there's a movie on this list that you haven't seen, and I'm endorsing both of our lists, this is a combination of both of our lists. See it because it is worth your time.
right. I have to check out JFK. I need to check out Chungking Express. I need to check out the Five Heartbeats
Yes.
and Hollywood Shuffle. I need to check
Yeah.
those out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I got some watching to do. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode, for the past 100. We really have a fun time doing it. We hope you enjoy it too. Once again, thanks to Eureka Failure. They provided us the music for so long on this podcast, and they're doing such a good job. Just check them out, eurekafailure.bandcamp.com. And I guess that's really it.
Yep,
Martin,
yep.
you
No,
got to give your final words, man.
Well, my final words is enjoy the movies.
There you
Enjoy the movies.
All right. Thanks again. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.